So I've been doing street photography for a while now, close to 4 to 5 years, and the one thing I've realized about street photography is that it is one of the easiest genres to get into. However, it is one of the most difficult to master, and today I want to talk about 3 mistakes that you are making in your street photography and how to fix them. So the one thing you have to understand about street photography is not every photo that you take is going to be amazing, nor is it going to be a good photo, and that's fine. We all make mistakes no matter how experienced you are. Look at a lot of professional street photographers in their contact sheets. You will realize that the iconic images that they've made is a series of other bad photos that they've taken within that scene. You know, and it just goes to show that it's just more about understanding the mistakes that you're making and trying to solve the issue, you know, trying to fix the problem. So in this video, I don't want this to be me telling you what you should and should not do, but rather, once again, it's just hopefully it gives you awareness of the mistakes that you are currently making, to notice them and hopefully put a bit of effort into fixing them. So the first mistake that you're making in your street photography is always shooting the backs of people. Now, if your project or your creative project is to shoot the backs of people on the street, fine. However, if you are trying to come up with a very trying to come up with all kinds of reasons and justifications as to why you shoot the backs of people a lot, chances are it's a symptom of a much bigger problem of shooting street photography, and that is fear. And don't get me wrong, being afraid to take photos on the street is normal. Everybody goes through, you know. I totally understand the feeling. You don't want people to confront you, you don't want people to see that you're taking a photo, you don't want people to like ask you what's going on. I totally understand that. But the problem is, if the more you are afraid to take photos on the street, you will never get photos that are impactful. You're never going to be taking photos that are powerful and have some sort of significance. And it's even more so when you're trying to shoot the backs of people all the time. And if you don't acknowledge that you are scared to take photos on the street, you're never going to change. You know, you're never going to get out of your comfort zone to get much more impactful and much more powerful images. So the one tip that I can give you to get over this fear of shooting on the street and to stop taking photos of the backs of people is to go with a friend. This is the easiest way to take street photos, especially when you're going with somebody who also enjoys photography. You know, I would say at max 3 people. Any more of a group, it looks a little bit weird, but 3 people, it always looks like you're having fun. What you can do is you can have somebody stand in front of you. You can be pretending to shoot this person but actually shooting somebody else, and that way you can just slowly get into the groove of getting out of this fear of street photography. I also get afraid to like lift up my camera to take the photo because I know somebody's conscious of me, and everybody goes through it. But more importantly, I hope you understand that you have to be aware that you are afraid to take photos on the street and looking for ways to go around it and to be a little bit more confident, because when you're confident and you know what you're doing, you're going to get much better images when you're taking photos on the street. So the second mistake that you're making in your street photography is the concept of shooting nothing in your photos. This is actually a very, very common problem that a lot of people have, and I see a lot of street photography POV videos, a lot on Instagram, and the idea of a nothing photo is a little bit hard to describe, because on paper the photo is technically perfect. You know, it's sharp, it's in focus, there's no distracting element, the nice bokeh at the background, there's no motion blur, you have captured a moment. So it's very hard to describe a nothing photo, but you will know it when you see it. Street photography in essence is about capturing the story on the street. And what I mean by story, or what I prefer to say, is the narrative of the street. Is that it has to be something of significance. It has to be something that when people look at it, oh, it's like either a unique thing that happened, something significant, or something visually interesting. Just because you take a photo and you slap on your whatever preset that you bought doesn't mean that it's a good photo. A mentor once told me is that a bad photo is going to be a bad photo no matter how you try and justify it. And that's very true for street photography. You can take a very nicely or theoretically nicely composed image of a person, but on the street it might just be a bad photo. It's not guaranteed to be a good photo, because in essence it's the story behind it, the narrative behind it. What's so special about that photo? So some of the photos that I think that are nothing are somebody walking or crossing the road. a random building, or at least a random part of the building, or people that are far away, very small people in the frame. And this is one problem that a lot of people have, especially with the digital age, is that very blurry backgrounds, creamy bokeh backgrounds that you don't even know where this person is. Let's look at some people crossing the road. What's so special about this person crossing the road? What's so unique about this person crossing the road? Is it the way the light is shining, or is it what this person is wearing, what this person is carrying, and things like that? What is so significant about this photo? Another thing is shooting parts of the building. This is something that I always see. A lot of people like to shoot filler images for their POV videos. I'm guilty of this as well, I know. But shooting a random part of the building doesn't make sense and is not a good photo, and I'll tell you the reason why. If let's say you're out to get the architecture of the building, what's the context of this building? Where is this building at? When was this building created? What's so special about that part of the building that you shot? You see, it's all these things that, whilst on paper, everything's sharp, everything's nice and focused, it just makes for a bad and a nothing photo because there's nothing interesting in this frame. So that's why I want you to go home and try and think about it, and you start to realize that a lot of your shots are not good because they're just boring. Once again, they might be technically perfect, but they're not doing anything. There's nothing interesting in the shot. And one way that I can suggest you do this is start to use a wider angle lens. I see that a lot of times people who shoot these kind of like nothing images, or even when I shoot these nothing images, it's generally because I've been shooting on a longer telephoto lens. When you're on a longer telephoto lens, it's hard to give context to the scene, like where this person is, where is this place at. And so like when you use a wider angle lens, you're forced to go a little bit closer to your subject and include more of the background and be more conscious of the background. That way you can create images that are much more contextual. You can create images that are a lot more interesting, and you can create images that are no longer nothing but have some sort of story or narrative in the photo. And the last one is something I think a lot of us are guilty for, and that is shooting for social media. The problem with shooting street photos for Instagram is that Instagram is really you have to really shoot in a specific way to fit that whole Instagram algorithm scene. You have to shoot very stylized shots, you have to shoot very bokeh centric images, you have to edit them in a specific way that are generally not true to life. And the problem with this is that you are creating for a trend, and when you create for a trend, right, you are never creating images that are timeless. You're never creating images because you love it. You're always creating images for the likes, for the follows, or the fame that it can get. And I think this is very dangerous as a street photographer, because we tend to confuse images that have a lot of likes for a good photo. A good photo on the street might not necessarily be one that has tens and thousands of likes. It might have 50 likes, but it's very impactful because it tells a specific story and narrative. And for me, how I handled this issue was that I understood and I came to a conclusion as to why I enjoy street photography. And for me, why I do street photography is because I love history. I love looking back at textbooks. The one thing when I was studying Form 3 here, I memorized the entire history textbook because I enjoyed it so much, and especially looking at older photos. And so for me, my conviction as a street photographer is that I'm able to capture what is currently going on for the future, because I love to see the progress of where we are now to where we are later, and I love the process of documenting it, the place, the people, the environment. That's the reason why I shoot street photography. For you, it could be the same, or it could be many other reasons, but I highly encourage you to look for a reason to why you're shooting street photography that's not about posting on Instagram or on social media. Because once you stop creating for other people, you find that your work has a lot more meaning, you find that your work has a lot more quality, you find a lot more satisfaction in the photos that you're taking versus relying on the likes and the shares and the follows from people. Street photography, ultimately, as I said, it's the story of the street. So why do you shoot street photography? I think these are 3 mistakes that you can easily look at and be a bit more aware, and you will realize that a lot of your street photos are actually quite bad once you realize these mistakes. And that's good, because now you're aware of the mistakes and now you know how to fix them and how to go about fixing them. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to know what you guys think about these mistakes. Is this something that you do? Is this something that you're aware of? Or do you have any other mistakes that you realize you're doing in street photography? I would love to know. Obviously, these are just 3 of many other mistakes that I've made, and most likely a lot of people are making as well. So if you want to hear more, do let me know. I'll be more than happy to share a bunch of other mistakes that I think street photographers are making, including myself. If you like this video, you found it helpful, don't forget to leave a comment, like, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a lot. Thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I will see you in the next one.